The sports writers are here. Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Newell. We have Phil Stacy, Nick Kukaru, Matt Williams all with us here talking North Shore sports. Do a lot of high school football and so on during these weekly podcasts during the fall. We'll touch on some other sports as well. On this podcast that we record on Sunday evening after the Patriots win, after Buffalo beats Kansas City in the NFL. No Mac Jones yet, but Bailey Zappi does it again. But I guess why don't we just talk about those guys for a second? What do you guys think, Zappy? Will we have a quarterback controversy? I mean, that's the biggest talk on sports radio here in the last week or two.
Let me tell you something. First of all, I have a buddy who texted me today and said, "Hey, I just ordered a Zappy shirt." I'm like, "Why?" In 2 weeks, that thing is going to be, not worth the paper it's printed on. But I digress. Hey, it's great that he's won 2 games, but I think by the nature of football, because they play once a week, there is a pack mentality when it comes to people putting on the team. And there are also extremely lazy narratives because there's so much space to fill. So for 3 years now, we've been going Brady Belichick, Brady Belichick. Brady is long gone. Brady Belichick. If you're not, if you can't think outside the proverbial box, that's what you write about because somebody's going to read it. Crazy as that sounds, stupid. So now they have this, made up controversy. I mean, I have to think this is still Mac's team, so to speak. When he's healthy, he'll be back. I mean, kid's playing great. That's fantastic. And if they choose to stay with him, I got no problem with it. But I don't really see it as a controversy. I think that's such a contrived thing. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think if Mac was running the offense they've been running with Zappy, he'd probably have similar numbers. With that said, I thought Zappy looked excellent today. I thought he made some great throws on the run. He's more athletic than Mac Jones, obviously, but I think they kind of let the reins off of Mac a little bit at the beginning of the season, and he threw a few picks. I mean, we've seen this before. I know Tom Brady, his second season as a starter, he threw 6 picks in the first 4 or 5 games too, and then he kind of they put the reins back on him a little bit, and he settled down. So yeah, I think you probably still go with Mac Jones when he gets back, but I mean, Bailey Zappi's been not to downplay what he's done, he's been very good. Especially today, I thought he was real good today, and they were really keying in on the run game, and they needed him to play well, and he did.
He threw
second half. I thought he made some bad reads in the first half, and
first couple drives, I thought he
poorly overthrown balls to the point where it's like, dude, what are you doing? But he did get better as the game went on.
I think it's fairly similar, though. I will say that for the fans. I mean, these Zappy Fever people are the same people who last year, when they won 6 or 7 in a row, beating up a bunch of lambs with Jones not really doing anything, were anointing Jones as the 2001 Tom Brady, right? So
right, lazy narrative.
To me, it's really a mirror image. They're going through some bad teams right now. They're beating them, and good for them. And when they start playing good teams again, they're going to go back down where they belong. And whether it's Zappy or Jones, I mean, I personally, I don't think either one of them has proven a thing or necessarily going to be any good in this league. So I think it's just kind of typical Patriots fans overreacting. You win a couple games against bad teams and you think you're, back at the top tier of the league again. And that's just, to me, not realistic. But, hey, I'm sure if we had this podcast in 2001, they would have said that about Brady. So just because that was a 1 in a million shot, I guess there's an outside chance it could happen twice in a million, but I mean, I wouldn't be putting any money on it. That's for sure. I mean, they're going to destroy Chicago on Monday night. And then, we'll see what happens after that. I mean, they might not play a real team here until December, looking at the schedule, depending on what you think of the Jets. I mean, the Jets just devoured Aaron Rodgers. So what are they going to do to Bailey Zappi? I mean, I don't know. It's just not right. 4th round picks from Western Kentucky that stand 5'10", don't light the NFL on fire very often. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I do think that there's a little bit of, hey, guys, slow your roll on this a little bit. Not that Mac Jones has proven anything in this league either, because I kind of think, he's been overhyped and overrated by the locals as well. So, you can tell I'm obviously very bullish on what's going on there in Foxborough.
Mac's proven he can read a defense at least. This kid, you still don't know. A lot of the stuff they kind of schemed open, but I mean, he's forcing the ball in coverage too much early this season, but at least, we've seen that Matt can go through progressions, which is the
Right.
biggest thing, when it comes to a quarterback making it in this league. I know he doesn't light the world on fire with his arm, obviously, but he has the mental capacity for sure.
Mhm.
We have Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. I think if you reverse those names, you'd have two better quarterbacks. I think Mac Zappi and Bailey Jones are better names to be on, when you pair them together. It's just me. Maybe it's something the Patriots could think about. But when you got a Mac Zappi coming off the bench, look out.
Yeah.
And I mean, people are having fun with this, but let's not anoint Belichick and Patricia as such geniuses. I mean, they weren't even going to play this kid. They were playing Hoyer. So if Hoyer didn't get hurt, this kid's still stable to the bench. So let's not pretend that these swamis, discovered this and coached him up of their own volition. They happen to get lucky that Hoyer got hurt, that they even found this guy.
Yeah.
Which brings us back full circle to a lazy narrative. And it's the number one sin to me for pro football writers. I hate lazy writing. And I'm not saying that I'm Frank DeFord or any of us are here, but lazy sports writing is the bane of our existence. And just
Phil, Phil, that sounds like the rip of the day. We're bringing the rip of the day back from
you know what?
Years gone by.
This might be a good segue into high school coverage, because
let's do it. Yeah, let's go.
I heard quite a bit about the. I didn't even think it was a rip last week, but the comments made on here and on Twitter last week, I heard quite a bit about this past week.
I will say this, without giving away the farm, there have been several neutral parties, both in the media and in the officiating world, that have scooched up to me during games and said, hey, did Phil catch a lot of heat for that tweet?
I had a few people tell me they thought it was directed at the coaches, and I was like, no, it wasn't. In fact, that's why I clarified it the next day, because there were people saying it wasn't the coaches or whatever, So we'll have to talk off air, Willie. That's funny. I'd be curious to know who was asking you that. That's funny.
Well, we can't reveal our sources now.
Well, not on the record, of course.
The high school football here, and we're a few minutes into the show here, but let's go. Phil, you saw a pretty powerful Danvers team turn out Friday night against Swampscott.
I think all of us, just based on our picks here, thought that this game was, I think I tweeted out the term rock fight. I thought it was going to be like a real drag them out, maybe a 21-20 type game or whatever. Swampscott's banged up front, or were banged up front. They're missing one of their captains. They lost another one during the game to an ACL tear, and unfortunately he's out for the year. I think that was his first game back, actually. So they're starting three sophomores up front. Danvers got all kinds of push, bull rushing when Swampscott had the ball, and offensively they were opening huge holes for Owen Gasanowski and Joey Baker when they were running the ball. 7-7 in the second quarter when Danvers scored in the last play before halftime. Then came out Captain Arizaris with a scoop and score off a Swampscott fumble. They scored again, make it 28-7, and then they get punched in another late touchdown. So that's 2 weeks in a row where Danvers has played great, taking advantage of mistakes that their opponents present to them, and also, using the stuff that they've worked on all week to have that result in a dominant showing on the field. Now, having said that, I think they're going to have a test this coming Friday against Masconomet. I think the areas in which Danvers is strong at, I think Masco defends well. I think Masco is big. I think they can get to the outside well. So that should be a good game. And Masco's been up and down a little bit, but they certainly got some momentum from that game you saw, Willie, the other day, where they beat previously undefeated Salem. They walloped them. So I think that should be a pretty good game Friday night, Danvers at Masco. Both 3-3, if I'm not mistaken, right, Willie?
Yeah, big playoff implications, all across the NEC, really. Because Swampscott's playing who, Beverly?
Yeah.
Beverly is at Swampscott. Yep.
I mean, Beverly's a wounded animal, and Swampscott really kind of desperately needs to win that game. to shore up its playoff chances. I mean, if they fall to 3-4 and then maybe 3-5, you're looking at going on the road or maybe being squeezed out. And then one more game that's going to have big playoff implications is Salem and Winthrop. Winthrop 3-3 is probably going to get in because they got a good strength of schedule. But Salem, they were on the periphery when they were undefeated, and if they lose again, they're going to be in danger of not making the playoffs despite their great season that they had. So
I don't think they make the playoffs at all unless they beat Winthrop and Peabody. I mean, I don't even think a win over Winthrop will be enough to get them in.
I mean, if they don't get in at 6-2, there's something wrong. I mean, they should get if they go 6-2 and beat Winthrop. I mean, they deserve to get in.
Well, this is Revere all over again. Wasn't that Revere's record last year?
Yeah, but that was Division 2, right? I mean, you're talking Salem's in 4. I mean, so that's just the competition in Division 2 last year was or Revere might be 3, but either way, those are deeper divisions, right? I mean, I feel like the lower the divisions you go, the better your record should count for a little bit more, right? I mean, I know they didn't play great teams the first few weeks, but losing to Masco and then losing to Peabody, there shouldn't be much shame in that. I mean, 6-2. Yeah, if they lose 3 in a row, I would say, all right, well, you kind of made your own bed. But I mean, if they manage to beat Winthrop, so anyway, it's a big game. I mean, if they want to have any hope at all, they got to win it, right? So that makes it a big game for them anyway.
We'll agree on that. Yeah,
I think it comes, and Winthrop is ranked what, 4th, I think, in Division 6. Is it? Are they in Division?
That I don't know. They're a good football team, though. I mean, hey, they beat the pants off of Danvers, and they had a really good plan. And hey, they played Peabody better than anybody else has this year, including Marblehead, right? So you got to hand it to Winthrop.
Well, I think unfortunately for Salem, it's that opponent's strength of schedule that has really hurt them. Saugus is 0-6. Martha's Vineyard, I want to say, is 1-5. Gloucester's what, 2-4 now, Nick? Who else did they played? What, Chelsea?
That should rise as you add Peabody and Winthrop and Masco into that. That should rise a little bit. One thing,
this is we're looking at D4 football. I'm D6 football rather. There's Winthrop number 4 there.
Okay.
I'm sure that Jim Clark doesn't watch the podcast, but I would like to say that for football, at least, it would be nice if they could, you submit your 8-game schedule, right? Your opponent rating should be all 8 of those teams all season long instead of just adding them once you play them. So then you're not getting a false idea of how good your team is. That would be, that shouldn't be that hard to do because it's football. There's only 8 games. Like, then you wouldn't have teams falling off a cliff if they play a bad team late. Like you'd have less movement. You'd have a better idea of how good you really are if they could incorporate all those games from the get-go instead of just adding them as you go.
This also goes back to that. I want to say age old. It's not really, the test, at least since we've been doing it for, the second year since I've had these power ratings. We've talked about this several times, but it goes back to if you're a struggling program or a program that has struggled is a better way to put that. You're a program that struggled. Salem, Gloucester, name a team that struggled. Is it better to play opponents that are more on your level and you can beat them, but you run the risk of not making the playoffs no matter what your record is because of that strength of schedule? Or is it better to play a tougher schedule, maybe get walloped a few times, and it stunts what you're trying to do in terms of building up the programs for the long shot of making the playoffs? I don't know. I mean, hey, to me, what Salem has done has been a success. And that may not come in the form of a playoff berth. Is that fair? No, but the way the system is set up, it's accurate. To me, Salem having, let's just say, an 8-3 record this year is better than qualifying for the playoffs, getting blown out in the first week, and then finishing up 5-6 or 6-5 or whatever. That's my opinion. If you're trying to build a program that has fallen on hard times. Other people may look at it differently. I think for a team like Salem, the playoffs shouldn't be the be-all, end-all. It should just be like constant improvement week after week, beating the teams you should beat and playing hard against the teams that maybe you are not going to be favored against, but learning how to get better.
And when you have Salem and the schedule that they have this year, just look at the schedule they have this year. There are teams that they beat, obviously, starting off at 5-0, but there are teams that they could very well lose to, obviously, moving
Right.
forward. And that would be exactly what you're saying, Phil, is that you got to begin to step up a little bit and take on tougher competition. I mean, and the playoff system, like I think we talked to Kip. So Kip Academy a week ago, right, beats Manchester Essex. Then they but they're scheduling but they lost a tough at Old Rochester team on Saturday this past weekend. But
That's
apparently
good
they're a
too.
very strong team, but they want to play a tough schedule. So maybe I don't know the power rankings and how that will play out for them, but they may not lose that much by losing that game by getting thumped by Old Rochester. But
Yeah, it's hard to say. You just don't
yeah,
know. And, I mean, I think Phil's right in the sense of the schedule. I think, where I start to wonder is like, if you're 6-2, 7-1, like you've kind of done what you're supposed to do, right? If you're 4-4, 5-3, and your numbers aren't there, like, well, you should have won a little bit more. To me, like, a 6-2, it's like, well, you've won a lot of football games. There could be some reward for that. So I guess I am sort of somewhere in the middle on that, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I mean, but certainly just as far as putting hype on this week. I mean, if they don't beat Winthrop, then you're probably looking at consolation games.
And that should be a really good game, I think. I mean, it's
Sure, yeah, both teams run it well and stop the
Yep.
run, and
It's a home game for Salem, festive time of year. If the weather's good, they get a nice crowd there. Winthrop always brings a nice crowd. As you said, both teams run the ball well. It should be a good game. I think Salem has a lot more to play for than Winthrop. And if you're a Salem fan, hopefully that translates into what happens on the field Friday night.
Well, speaking of the power ratings, let's segue to Division Two. Catholic Memorial did not cover the spread against St. John's Prep. They win by 11 instead of by 14. So that's going to lower their average margin there. That's the first game they didn't win by 14. And I wonder, how much is that going to affect their rating? Is whatever points they gain from playing St. John's going to offset the points they lose from that own rating dropping? That's sort of something to keep an eye on because, I think everybody knows CM is the best team, but is the math going to put them at number one, where they didn't win by 14 and they may not beat Severian by 14? Like, what's going to end up being more important? And
Can you imagine if they stayed the way they are now? Milford earns the number one seed, or let's just say Peabody surpassed them, earned the number one seed. And you got to play Catholic Memorial in the second round, like
right. I mean, I can't imagine they'll stay 8th, but they might not leapfrog all the way to 1. And
they can be 5.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I know they were number 1 last year. I believe that there were a couple of times in the old system where they didn't finish as a number 1 seed and made it to the Super Bowl. So you just never know like how things are gonna translate. And it is interesting to see what's gonna end up being more important, what's gonna carry more weight, that average margin or that average opponent rating. I mean, theoretically it's 50-50, but is CM going to, I mean, look at their opponent rating right now is really bad. It's 0.6103 and Peabody's is 7. So you wouldn't think like, wow, Peabody's played a tougher schedule than CM by 7 times, right? But so far this season, that has happened. So we'll see if, Peabody playing Gloucester and Salem and CM playing the Prep and Xaverian maybe reverses that, or if it doesn't. I got my eyes on that. And the Prep managing to lose by only 11 or 10 or whatever it was, that might offset that seeding there in Division 2. And I don't know if anybody's got any takes out of that Prep CM game. Turned into a really good game there. I mean, I guess let that be a lesson to all the teams in the state. If you can get a 5-star to transfer in from Florida, you can almost beat those guys. That should be easy for everyone else to do, right? That's great for football in Massachusetts.
Come on, that's awful.
I mean, but that is a little silly, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, it's I don't mean to jest, but like, geez, that's what it takes to even get close to these guys is a game of the year performance from Janelle Aguero, who's going to Georgia and is going to play in the NFL one day, and you still can't win. I mean, that's crazy to me. That's how big the gap is. Like, that's scary. If you're not a team that's capable of getting a kid like that to come to your school, like, what are you supposed to do?
Would it be safe to say, do you think, and you guys know this, I suppose, just as well as I do, if not better, but if you were to poll statewide football pundits, I think they would probably rank Catholic Memorial here, probably Springfield Central here, and the rest of the pack would go from there. Is that sound accurate? Maybe Zavarian third, but
Yeah, I think there's a sizable gap between those two teams and everybody else, from everything that I've read and seen.
yeah. And hey, I know King Philip is great. I know Zavarian is great. Central Catholic. I mean, I think St. John's Prep proved they can play with anybody. Wouldn't be surprised to see them in the Division One Super Bowl if the seedings work out and whatnot. But it does seem like almost a fait accompli that we know the Division One, the Division Two champs. On October 16th, we know who's going to win those two Super Bowls. Obviously stranger things have happened. They could prove us wrong, and that would be great if a team or teams did, but you would have to think both of those teams are the overwhelming favorites in a tilted system.
It's a shame they don't play each other.
Well, if you choose to stay down in a division you probably don't belong in because you can win 35 titles in a row and you feel proud about that, hey, good luck to you. That's great.
I just don't know why it's even a choice, but that's not for me to say, I guess.
I
They
think we got to let's just jump because I'm looking at the clock here. We got to touch on a couple of other things here. So, Nick Kukuru, can you update us on some football from your area or other sports? We can just go around the horn a little bit. Maybe we can mix it up a little bit. Kind of do all the Cape Ann stuff right here, and then Willie can do some stuff, that he's been working on and so on. Again, I'm looking at the clock. We want to get all the sports in as many as we can. So, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, Cape Ann wise, Gloucester beat Saugus. They kind of dominated them. They were just kind of the better team up front, so they kind of ran all over them, even with their quarterback out. Manchester Essex got beat by Shawsheen pretty handily, 44-14. The Hornets were playing without Declan Kirk, their leading receiver, and Stephen Martin, their leading rusher. Both were on crutches actually, so that's not a good sign for them going forward. But they hung in there for a quarter and a half, and then Shawsheen just seemed to have a little bit more in the tank. They were very good. They're 6-0 now. They're one of the top 5 teams in Division 5. I'd say Manchester Essex probably won't hold on to that top seed in Division 8 with 2 straight losses, but you never know. Maybe if they had come within 14 of Shawsheen, they would have stuck up there, but I bet you they'll probably drop a little bit with that loss. And then they got Lowell Catholic coming up this Saturday, which is another tough one. Lowell Catholic's been real good this year. They might be the underdogs in that one again, too. As far as the other sports are concerned, power rankings wise, Manchester Essex field hockey is the top rated team in the area outside of Manchester Essex football. They continue to roll. They're leading the Cal Baker. They should win the Cal Baker and be a top 3 seed there in Division 4 when those playoffs start. And then Gloucester field hockey continues to be good. They're 11-1-2, and they moved into the top 6. I think they got a big boost. Swampscott beating Newburyport, I think, really might have helped out a lot of the NEC in field hockey, because Newburyport is one of the top teams in the Cape Ann League, and Swampscott knocking them off boosted everybody. It's kind of the inverse of what we saw in baseball season when Danvers kept losing with their number 3 pitcher outside of the conference, and it tanked the whole rankings. For the NEC, Swampscott with that out of conference win based on the good teams they play in the NEC, it's kind of helped out everybody pretty much. And then switching over to Rockport boys soccer, hovering around 500. They look like they're going to be heading back to the tournament this year in Division 5. They're an interesting team. Jason Rakowskis, of course, he comes in, replaces Dave Curley, which is an impossible task, but he's done a fine job. He's got them, with a winning record in his second season, and they're pushing towards the postseason.
Michael Murphy's a pretty good player for them, isn't he?
Yeah, Michael Murphy's a very good player. Michael Nacella over on defense as well. Yeah, but Michael Murphy he's probably one of their better athletes, better overall athletes in Rockport as a whole. Hockey,
right. Hockey and baseball too, right?
Plus, I think Rockport reported one of the higher North Shore wind gusts on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Phil, is that right? I mean, so it's been a wild week up there for Rockport, huh?
Mm-hmm. Sure felt like it.
Yeah. So, Phil, why don't you give us something other than football here?
Okay.
I know you got field hockey. You got all.
Yeah, I can give you some field hockey, and with Kooks mentioning that Swampscott win at Newburyport, the timing couldn't have been any better because I featured Swampscott in a column I wrote last week, and they, I'd set it up. We obviously in the business have to set things up a few days ahead of time with things like that. And that was going to go no matter what on Thursday, but them winning at the Newburyport on Wednesday turned out really good, especially since the two captains who I spoke with combined for the only goal of the game. Olivia Barron scored from Brooke Walter, so that worked out pretty well.
That's a big thumbs up in the media business.
Hey,
Something
that's
like that happens for you, Phil, huh?
That's what we call poetic justice, I guess. I don't know. 2 weeks left in the regular season for all of our fall sports, at least MIA teams. And I think we might have touched on this last week, but it's becoming quite a battle in the conference field hockey here. You get conference games only. You got Masco with 20 points, 9 wins, no losses, 2 ties. You got Danvers, 19 points, 9 wins, 1 loss, 1 tie. That 1 loss to Gloucester. And Gloucester is 8-1-2, 18 points. Their only loss is to Masconomet. Masco and Danvers play this Friday at Danvers. This Wednesday, did I say? I'm sorry, this Wednesday. So that should help shake things out a little bit. But here we are, 3 teams within 2 points of each other with 2 weeks to go. Should be a great race. All 3 teams are excellent. Pingree has had a great season. We don't mention them too much here, but the Pingree girls field hockey team, they're 10-1. And they were, in the late 2010s, they won a couple of New England championships in a row, didn't play the COVID year, and stumbled by their standards last year by losing the playoffs. But they certainly look like they could be winning another New England championship this year. A lot of talent on that team. 9 seniors lead the way, along with the goaltender Sadie Kennelly, who's one of the top position players in goal in the area. I should say in the region. So Jen Richardson's got them playing very, very well as well.
Will they give us some non-football? What do you got for
I think we should remind folks the golf playoffs actually begin tomorrow.
Yeah,
The
right.
Division 1 and Division 2 is on Tuesday, I think. So we'll be interested to
Yeah.
see. I'm sure St. John's Prep has got some really good linksmen over there. They're always right there. I know Beverly's got a pretty good squad too, right? Won the NEC.
Undefeated.
Yeah, won the NEC, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see if the Panthers can do it as individuals or as teams there. So golf
And they're
is
playing over at
wrapped
the
up.
Meadow tomorrow, Division 1.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Tomorrow being Monday. Yeah.
So very good. I mean, on the soccer front, you got to shout out Peabody, Stan McKean. They handed Masco their very first loss in NEC play. So that's a big deal. I never would have guessed that. I think when Masco entered the league, you would have said, who's going to be the first team to beat them? You might have said, Beverly maybe, Danvers maybe. Peabody might have been a little ways down the list. So they get it done. They got a really, really good team this year, and good for them. That's really cool. They're 9-2-2, and I mean, you beat Masco and you tie Concord Carlisle, which we talked about a few weeks ago. I mean, that's legit. That's not like a paper tiger. I got a good record and played a lousy schedule thing like that. Those are 2 really good points. So they're definitely a sleeper team there to watch in that Division 1 field on the boys' side, I think. I mean,
I saw them a couple weeks ago. They take great care of the ball, possess. They don't make many mistakes, and you have to beat them. You have to go out and make plays to beat them. They're not going to give you anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Hey, and Matt Masco is one of the best teams in the state, period, in any division for boys and girls for that matter. So, great job by Stan and his guys on that front. I'm trying to think on the girls soccer side. Everything's kind of set in stone right now. Danvers qualified for the state tournament for a 31st consecutive year, so great for them. I mean, when you've done it that many times, more times than a lot of the reporters out there have been alive, like you sort of take it for granted, but it's always nice to extend the streak, right? And, most of the teams out there that are going to be in the postseason have kind of clinched their berths and are playing for seeding right now. And I mean, I don't want to say playing out the string, right? Because it is 2 more weeks. People are trying to go in with good, good momentum and everybody healthy and good shape in their formations and things like that. But, at the same time, there doesn't seem to be a lot of pressure in a lot of these games right now, which is often a good thing in soccer, right? I mean, when you don't have pressure, you play free, you play creative, and, sometimes that gets you the best goals. So, I guess that's my 2 cents on that.
Oh, Willie, thank you for mentioning golf because I forgot to mention all three Cape Ann teams are in the Division Three North sectional on Tuesday.
Oh,
Gloucester's
Gloucester too, huh? Okay.
Yeah, they're the defending champ in Division Three North, and they got three of their 4 point scorers from last year back in the lineup with Jack Delaney, Joseph Orlando, and Nick White. And then Manchester Essex started off the year 1-6, and they battled back. They won the old Cape Ann Classic. They needed to beat Rockport and Ipswich on the same day to get into the sectional tournament, and they beat them both. And Rockport's back in there for the fourth year in a row, so they're all looking strong.
Nice, nice.
Any, go ahead, Phil. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, just to get off topic for a minute. I don't know who's been watching the baseball playoffs. I think they've been great. I think it's a sport that generally, you see the favorites usually end up winning out in these playoffs. So to see 300 win teams lose in the divisional round, as a fan who doesn't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, I think it's awesome. See the Dodgers, see you later. The Braves, defending champs, are out by a bunch of, beer swilling softball players in Philadelphia. And I mean, they look like a softball team, right? And the Yankees could get bounced out tonight. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have been watching it all, but I think it's been really good.
I have. I got to tell you, people being surprised by the Dodgers. It's like, guys, this is the 400 win Dodgers team to not win the World Series in the last 6 years. Like, this isn't exactly news. And,
but I think people were saying that this was like the be all end all Dodgers team, would they win 112 games or whatever?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Red Sox teams like that, flop in that position too. I don't know if there's any common denominators. I guess I'd have to go look it up, but, and then the Dave Dombrowski thing, right? He's so bad. I've defended him on this podcast before. Now he's in the LCS again, and the Red Sox have payroll flexibility. Thank goodness, right? And the other thing I looked up for
are you rehashing a tweet of yours, Willie? Are you recycling
no, I don't think
a
I
tweet
tweeted
that,
that, but I know we talked about it during the pandemic doldrums when we had nothing else to talk about. But the other thing is, like, the Padres, they have the fifth highest payroll in baseball. So, like, let's not pretend that this is some Cinderella story.
Right. Well, right. I mean, look at the guys making tons of money, between Machado, Soto, Darvish, Tatis, who's not even playing,
Yeah, and they're a great team. I enjoy watching them, but, like,
guys, we're down to 30 seconds. We're down to 30 seconds, but
we got to say quickly, happy birthday in one day to Willie.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Wow.
Yeah, attaboy.
I'll try not to rip anyone for this week.
He's
I don't know.
Monday Stevenson this week, right? Is that where you are? Yeah, he's number 38, right?
Yeah.
I think was Lawrence Maroney.
No,
He was 39.
Was he? Okay, next year. I'll keep it under my hat.
Year, there you go. Happy birthday.
Well, when we got to stop right there, gentlemen, good talking with you, and we will talk again soon.